Hmm.
Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trilokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha, Tvameva Vidyat Ravinam, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Are you here, Vinayak?
Yes.
Adio. May I ask you to poke the little white box there for me? Are we back online?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. We had a technical problem
Oh, no
here.
worries.
That's right. There. Oh, look at all the peeps. All right. There. Nice. How are you? Good. Thank you for doing this. So we're beginning the 10th chapter, Yoga of the Lord's Divine Glories. And Vinayak will be reading the Sanskrit for us tonight. So would you help us out, please?
Yeah, Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Bhuya Eva Mahabaho Shrunu me Param Vachaha Yateham Priyamanaka Vakshayami Hitakamaya.
And the English?
The Blessed Lord said, again, O mighty An, listen to my supreme word, which I, wishing your welfare, will declare to you who delight in hearing me.
Yes. So Mahabaho, mighty arms. So again, he starts off by continuing much of the discourse, the ideas that we covered in the 9th chapter. Next verse.
Name viduhas suraganaha prabhavam na maharashaya aham adiri devanam maharishinam sarvashaha. Neither the hosts of heaven nor great rishis know my origin, for in every way I am the source of all the devas and the rishis.
So, again, we've talked about what the meaning of the term deva is. It means gods or demigods. And in Vedanta, it has three different meanings depending on context that have to do with our practice. It can be the presiding principles over a field of human endeavor. We've talked about that, especially when we've gone through the Karma Yoga section, about Deva Yajna, when I worship some field, like it could be IT, it could be music, it could be hedge funds, whatever it is. That's your Deva that you're worshiping. It can be a force of nature, the wind, the sea, etc. Here it means the sense organs. So what's the import of the verse? The self, here meaning Krishna, is the witnessing consciousness. It is that by which everything is known. But the sense organs, the mind, the intellect cannot know it. See if we can come to an experience of this. So everybody look at the lamp. So we have what's called a triputi, the triple factor. I, subject, through seeing, means of knowledge, pramana, know the lamp, object of knowledge. Triple factor. Everybody understand that? Can you feel the breeze of the fan, the ceiling fan on your skin? I, subject, through touch, means of knowledge, know the breeze from the fan. We can go through all the five outer senses that way. Let's go to a realm of more subtle, what we call manas, or mind. It's where feelings happen. Sometimes I know joy, sometimes I know sorrow, sometimes I know happiness, sometimes I know depression, sometimes I know anger, sometimes I know fear. I have all this palette of feeling. I, the knower, through the means of knowledge, manas or mind, know the object of knowledge, feelings. Let's go to the realm of the buddhi, the intellect. Your head, do the problem 2 + 2. Visualize the strawberry. Remember what you had for lunch. That place is called your intellect. Buddhi in Sanskrit. I, the knower, through buddhi, intellect, know these thoughts. Are you you? Do you see, hear, taste, touch, or smell, feel, or think yourself? The Western philosopher Descartes had the famous saying, I think, therefore I am. He never tried meditation. Quit thinking and see if you disappear. How do you know you are you? You are not known the way you know an object. It's not like I'm deep in meditation. Oh, there's the self. I saw it go by. No. Yet you are not unknown. So when it comes to this self-realization. Listen very carefully. It's not that we achieve the self or attain the self or merge into the self or become the self. Here meaning Krishna. Same thing. We realize what we've always been. We just weren't aware of it. So what Krishna's driving at here in this chapter, the devas, the sense organs, do not know the self. What about all the wise people? They don't know the self. Books cannot tell you about the self. You can read scripture and deny it. And I can have a conversation about the self as if it's out there. No. Who sees the phone? I do. That's yourself. My doubt is, I'm not sure what that is. And the meditation here that's implied is neti, neti. Anybody heard that before? Na iti means not this. So it's like a game. If you can see it, if you can know it, if you can be aware of it, if it is an object of cognition, that's not self. Self is the one who's doing the knowing, not what is known. Everybody see the glass? Are you a glass? Let's go to the body. When you were a child, you had a little body. You went through adolescence and your body changed. Now you're an adult, your body is changed again. Have you not known all these changes in the body? Take a deep breath. Do you not know the breath in the body? You are not your body. Your body is an object that you know. It's like the glass. I think God is energy. Okay? We call that prana, Sanskrit. So if you do pranayama and you raise the energy up and down, basically, when you've done exercise and you're feeling good, you've got a lot of energy. If you feel crappy or you're hungover or something, your energy's kind of punk. But are you not aware of the changes in energy? You are not energy. You are the knower of energy. Mind you, I'm not saying the energy is bad or the body is bad. I'm saying it's not you. We go to feelings. You are the knower of your feelings. I was talking with a friend the other day. Came out of the closet in his 50s. So he was saying things like, I finally know who I am. Took me a long time to face it. I'm a gay man. Is that who you are? Or is that a description of your body and your mind? You're not that. You're the knower of. Oh, I was in denial about my real nature. Well, who was aware of the denial? Do we have a question out there in Zoom land? Okay. Marcus, do we have a bomber coming in?
And no, I think I just muted him. I think he's just accidental background noise.
you.
Yep.
So all these ideas of self, they're not wrong, they're not right, but they are not who we are. I'm not any idea. I'm not even the ego sense. The mind gets very quiet. Space between your thoughts. See if you can notice. Who knows the thoughts in the space between? See what's there. It's pure awareness. Chid Akash, the space of consciousness itself. Does that mean I'm a zero, I'm nothing? Well, no, I shine. It's pure awareness. This space has Baba being. Oh, it's very cool. So Trevor is sitting over there. When I use Trevor as an example, you tune in just like it. So he sees the room from his viewpoint. I see the room from my viewpoint. You see the room from your viewpoint. You are aware of your body. I'm aware of my body. You are aware of your feelings. I'm aware of my feelings. You are aware of your thoughts. I'm aware of my thoughts. But when you look behind your eyes, when you notice the knower, nothing there. No thing. But pure existence, pure awareness. Scriptures say Ananda. Bliss absolute. But for now, let's translate it as no sorrow reaches there. Self is supremely peace. Self in you is not like the self in me. The self in you is the self in me. Yoga thunders. There's only one of us here. Krishna is the very self. So out there in the world, psychologists, philosophers, even many spiritual practitioners, they're focused on things you can be aware of. Oh yes, I'm getting in touch with my chakras. That's fine. But who knows the chakras? Oh, I do. I'm doing trauma therapy. Great work. Who's aware of all those issues? I am. I'm doing past life regressions. Who is the knower of all those past lives? So the import of the verse, it is not the mind or the senses that know the self. It is the self that knows the self. So what? When I grasp that this I can't be touched, can't be changed, can't be old, can't be improved, can't be diminished. Ultimately, we see that it's birthless and deathless. Then fear leaves us. Any thoughts on this?
How would one get past the mind and intellect? It seems like to me when I meditate, it's easy for me to say that I'm not my body. This is not me, but like it's very difficult for me to get past the mind and intellect since I can't visualize it.
What the mind and the intellect are essentially is awareness plus various kinds of what we call vrittis, thoughts. You won't see awareness. It's not like awareness one is aware of awareness two. You don't have awareness. You are awareness. What you do notice is feelings and thoughts. So the practice is to know you're not your thoughts, to know that you're not your feelings. So think the thought 2 + 2. Are you that thought?
No.
Okay. Think the thought, I'm a terrible human being. Are you that thought?
No.
Think the thought, I'm okay, I'm really a good man. Are you that thought?
It's changing.
But are you that thought?
No.
No. So you are none of these thoughts. You are the knower of them. So this is the great secret. The way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. We take on a practice called Sakshi Bhava. Bhava means an attitude. So we take on the attitude of Sakshi, which means witness, endeavoring always to keep the thoughts and feelings ever in front of us, reminding myself I am not any thought or feeling, and I'm not any idea of self. So you don't want to be in the mind wrestling with the mind. You want to get out of the mind. Just watch it. Does that make it a little easier, a little clearer?
Yeah, it does.
Excellent question. Excellent question. And this is done initially, becomes easier to do in our meditation seat. Because you just don't do something, sit there. Watch. Then we take this Sakshi Bhava into our daily life. So you're at work and the boss says, oh, you did such a great job, blah, 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 blah. But ego wants to, oh, yes, I'm wonderful. Oh, thank you. Let it pass through. Is the self a good person? No. Shunyata, be empty. Then when you get a bad review, does not meet expectations. Does the self meet expectations? No. Does the self exceed expectations? No. And so we practice over and over again this disidentification with what in Sanskrit we call the upadhis. The upadhis means the equipment. Physical body, energy body, emotional body, thought body, ultimately even all the vasanas, all the subtle impressions. And most importantly, the ego, which is a function that's lodged in the intellect. The function of the ego is to superimpose upon the self the qualities of the not self. I am short, I am tall, I am male, I am female, I am gay, I am straight, I am sensitive, I am powerful, I am powerless. All of these is I am and fill in the blank. All of those, I am none of those. Drop it. It's the practice. Any thoughts on this? All right, next shloka, next verse. Shloka means first, by the way, for the
Yo mamaj jamnadim chaveti loka maheshwaram asamudha martyeshu sarva papeya pramachite. He who amongst the mortals knows me as unborn and beginningless, as the great Lord of the worlds, is undiluted and is liberated from all sins.
yes. So many of us think that, oh, I'm a vulgar person. I have all these issues. We may think we're an immoral person trying to become moral, or I'm a sinner trying to become virtuous. Or maybe we'll take a pathological view. Oh, I'm a sick person and I want to get well. Or I'm broke and I'm trying to heal. At one level, this is important. One level, this is important. Only a healthy ego can die. Ram Dass used to say, you got to be somebody before you're nobody. But what Krishna's talking about here is to try to be sinless without papa is like trying to count to the highest number. You cannot take something that's inherently finite, make it into. Any of you here artists or musicians? I know you're a musician. Anybody else a musician? I had a teacher once, a voice teacher, great opera singer, Jess Thomas, sang at the Metropolitan, Bayreuth, stuff like that. And he used to say, music is a hard mistress, you can never master her. The whole point of what he was telling me is, you never sing the song perfectly. Just work at it. Is that your experience with your music?
Yeah, always.
You never get there. You never get there. You work. Same thing if you're a painter. In Japan, they have a custom. You deliberately put a defect in the work of art, because that's life. So how is it that we get beyond our issues, our sinfulness? Let's parse this whole verse. So Vinayak, would you read the first idea again?
He who amongst the mortals knows me as unborn and beginningless.
So, what is it that we need to know in the subtle intellect? You have an aha, a recognition about the nature of the self. What do I mean by this? For a moment, put your books down and take your hands and rub your hands together. Now stop. So the instrument for hand rubbing is hands. Now we're going to do a second process called reflection. When you rubbed your hands together, was it motion or stasis?
Motion.
Was it warmth or coolness? Okay. So the reflection is done by your intellect. But the intellect is not the instrument for hand rubbing. With your hands in your lap, rub your hands together. With your head. No. Another one. With your attentive faculty, notice the sensation of the waistband of your trousers around your waist. Can you feel it? Now, that sensation has been there since you put your pants on. But we did a second process. We reflected on that direct experience. You see the difference between the two, direct experience and reflection on it. Anybody not understand what I'm talking about? You are you. The instrument for the direct experience of the self is the self itself. It is what we call swayambhu, self-evident. Swayam Jyoti, self-luminous. The cosmic joke is everybody already has it. But in the subtle intellect, with a mind made very still, with the attentive faculty introverted, we notice what we are, who we are. So I may think I'm a person, I'm Jim, I'm this body, I'm too fat, I'm too this, I'm too that. But if I stop, still, notice. Well, there's no Jim in there, there's just a space of consciousness. You can create, achieve, or acquire the space of consciousness. In a quiet mind, I notice it's always there. What is it that this subtle intellect realizes? Can you find a beginning of you? This space of consciousness is Did you say Ajati? I can't remember what the Sanskrit was. Doesn't matter. You said unborn. What was the next English thing?
Beginningless.
Beginningless. You have no beginning. Well, wait a minute. I began when I was born. Are you sure about that? Well, I don't remember anything before I was born. What's today, the 5th of September? Is that right? Mm-hmm. What were you doing on the 5th of September 10 years ago? Do you remember? Huh?
No.
Yeah. Lack of memory or the presence of memory is no proof of existence. Did you not exist on the 5th of September a decade ago? Of course I did. The fact that you don't remember is not a proof of non-existence. You are unborn and beginningless. Next idea.
As the great Lord of the worlds.
So, out of infinite consciousness, the entire creation is imagined. We have a word in Sanskrit called sankalpa, almost untranslatable. It's wish, will, intention, thought. Sankalpa is the process whereby a subtle thought moves towards manifestation. And the Lord of all of that is infinite consciousness. Now, we went back to the subject-object discrimination. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect. I am that witnessing consciousness. Let's set that on the shelf. The scriptures say, in a sense, God has a physical body. Doesn't look like a human being. It's not like the marble statue or the bronze statue. The body of God is the whole phenomenal universe. Just like you have a physical body, the infinite has the whole phenomenal universe. We call it the Jagat. It just kind of goes jugga, 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 jugga. It's always changing and moving. You have what we call a subtle body, meaning your thoughts and feelings and memories and your ego sense. The infinite has a subtle body. All the thoughts and feelings that ever been thought and felt and ever can be. It's called the total mind. Technical term in Sanskrit is Hiranyagarbha, literally the golden egg. It's a technical term. It means the total mind. At the core of your being is this witnessing consciousness. And the consciousness that is the ground of being, the whole creation. Krishna says that he is. That ground of being, that witnessing consciousness in you, they are the same thing. Upanishad's thunder. I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman, the ground. So just like on a microcosmic level, your intentions, your thoughts, feelings, actions proceed so also on a cosmic scale, out of consciousness, all of this proceeds. In the Semitic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the great metaphor is a potter and clay. You are the potter, I am the clay. That's what the Hebrew psalm says. Like God's going. Yoga, all this world comes about much like the dream does for us individually. In a dream, you've made a dream body, with a dream world of people, places, things, and conditions. You have dream thoughts and feelings, but it's your one mind that appears as all that stuff. And in the dream, you think it's real. Just like you and I think all this is real. Krishna here is saying, actually, it's not quite it. All of this is imagined in me. I am the source of it. Now, listen very carefully. Christianity claims to be monotheistic. One God. In practice, it's not really that way. All the good stuff comes from God. But what about the bad stuff? Oh, that comes from the devil. So actually, there's a big God, Yahweh, Jehovah, and there's this little nasty God called the devil. It's actually a theology that was borrowed from the Persians, where you have Ahura Mazda, the good deity. You have Anya Grumyu, the nasty one, causes all the trouble. Yoga says, first of all, yoga or Vedanta is not monotheistic. Monotheism says there's only one God. It is monistic. There's only God. So all that happens is in consciousness. Now, there's enormous freedom that's implied in this teaching. Because if the bad things that happen to us are the fault of some supernatural being outside, we're in deep trouble. But if the vast majority of my troubles come out of my own ignorance and misunderstanding, then I can do something about it. Have you ever been angry or hurtful towards another person? The devil made me do it. No. Your own fear and hurt made you do the good things you've done come on your own. As we move further through this chapter, it's important to understand. Next verse.
Buddhi jnanamassamoha shama satyam damaha shamaha sukham dukkham bhavo bhavo bhayam chabhyameva cha. This two together.
Yes.
Ahimsa samta tush tushtistapo danam yaso yashaha bhavanti bhava bhutanamataha evam prithagvidaha. Intellect, wisdom, non-delusion, forgiveness, truth, self-restraint, calmness, happiness, pain, birth or death, fear and also fearlessness, non-injury, equanimity, contentment, austerity, beneficence, fame, infamy, all these different kinds of qualities of beings arise from me alone.
Yes. So, again, riffing on the idea we started in the last verse. All of life is in God. All. Now, there's a lot of practical import in this. Because if we start with an idea of God is only the good stuff, all the bad stuff is the devil. All the nice stuff is holy. All the bad stuff is sin. Let me see if I can give you some history where some of these ideas come from in the West. In Judaism, prior to 300 BC, when bad things would happen to the Hebrews, the idea was, oh, God's punishing us because we broke the covenant. You should love God with all your heart, soul, and mind and strength. Look at all these 613 rules. If you break those, you're going to get in trouble. The main one is you should only have one God. And if you look in the Hebrew Bible, you'll see that it's polemical. Scriptures are saying, don't worship other idols. Worship God alone. Worship God alone. Why do you think they keep having to bang on that? Well, I'm a good Jew. I worship God and God alone. But I'm going to have a little Baal statue just in case. I'm going to worship Mo just because my husband's a fisherman and I don't want the waves to go to it. Even today, how many people have a little parking god in their head? Hey, don't you? You have a little chant, Hail Mary, full of grace, help me find a parking space. I had a friend, St. Waldo was his parking god. St. Waldo lived in a tree. I don't know why. But have you been that way? Do you have any superstitious friends who have a little parking thing they do? It's human nature. But prior to 300 BC, the Jews said, you know, you do that, you're not keeping the covenant, God's going to punish you. I'm not saying this is true or not true. This was just simply the frame. Ancient Judaism. What happened in that part of the world in 300 BC? They named a city after the dude in Egypt. Alexander the Great came marching through that part of the world and conquered Palestine, what's now the Holy Land. And the notion of the cause of evil started to change. Jews began to develop the idea that there's a malevolent force that's causing all our problems. We're not suffering because we broke the covenant. We're suffering because of the tyranny of the Greeks. And that idea was expanded much, much later into what we call Satanology, such that there was an evil force that was causing all the problems. After the Greeks, what happened next? The Romans. So the idea was get rid of this occupying physical force. Then it was later expanded philosophically that, well, maybe there's a malevolent spiritual force. Doesn't exist in yoga. Doesn't exist at all. We have ideas of what we call devas, demigods, and asuras, demons. Those are more like Jungian archetypes in our own psyche. They're not really beings out there that you got to do battle with. The root of our suffering, vast majority of it, is our spiritual ignorance. I do hurtful things because I'm frightened and hurt myself. Why? Because I do not know it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. Frightened because I see a meaningless universe. I see a meaningless universe because I'm in competition with God. I've got to dominate it. I've got to fix it. I've got to muscle through life. That's exhausting. I have what I want. Somebody else wants something else, so I'm going to fight. From all of that stem the ills of humanity. Now, things like climate change, well, actually, that's probably caused by human greed and stuff like that. But yes, we have natural disasters. But that's not what causes most people's sorrow. What we do to one another. And no God out there is punishing us. And no devil is afflicting good people. In ignorance, I do stupid things. Moha, delusion. And then, because of the law of karma, the inevitable results return to me. Let me give you a clear example. I was talking with this fellow, and he was frustrated and angry because the people at work for whom he was working wouldn't give him a clear answer on a contract, what his hours were, what the pay was going to be. They said they were going to do it, and then they didn't keep their word. And we had a date to meet at a specific time. I must have had an intuition. So it was in the evening. So 3 o'clock, I texted him, confirming that we're getting together at 6 o'clock. An hour later, he texts me back. Oh, I was driving where I couldn't answer your text right away. Actually, I'm in a point such and such with his boyfriend. So if I hadn't texted you, you weren't going to text me. Do you realize you just did to me exactly what you're complaining about for the people where you work? We get the inevitable results of our actions. I think of it like dropping a stone into a pond, and the ripples go out, ripples come back. Most of the time, we do these things in ignorance. You didn't realize that just blowing me off. It has a karmic result. Another case in point. Had a student who thought they were doing something really clever. What they did is they would sign up for Costco, get a temporary membership, go buy stuff, and then cancel the membership and get their money back or $50 back. They did this over and over again. They thought they were being so clever. Then they complained when people stole their Amazon packages from the front door. Don't you get it? What you do will come back. They were stealing from Costco. So the vast majority of the things that happen to us are the inevitable results of past actions. Mind you, we're not being punished. If I go up to the top of the building here and jump off and splat on the sidewalk, gravity isn't punishing me. The law of karma is not, it has no personality. So this is the source of most of our problems. Yoga also teaches that we've had prior lives. So we may not have done it in this life. It may be karmas that are maturing from a prior life. The point is, we don't get what we want. We don't get what we need. We get the inevitable result of this incredibly complicated force of our past maturing. Now, how do we stop the karma chakra, the wheel of karma? It's what I call the point of power. So those of you who may have been raised Christian, what did Jesus say when someone smacks you in the face? What did he tell you to do? That seems dumb, doesn't it? If the Roman soldier says, carry my pack for a mile, what did he tell you to do? Somebody robs you of your coat, what are you supposed to do? Give them your clothes, your shirt, What's this do? If we learn to return good for evil, we start to break the karmic chains. What about injustice? What about someone who's a rapist? What about someone who assaults children? Should we just say nothing? No. No, not at all. Speak truth to power. Work for justice. But that's different than revenge. It's different than revenge. Karma can also be on larger fields of endeavor. How did the United States win its freedom from Great Britain? Does anybody know? They fought a guerrilla war, a continent away, and the British finally left because they could not afford to keep up the war. Britain at the time was the most powerful military force and the richest country in the Western world. Now, how did we get our butts kicked in Vietnam? What happened in Afghanistan? Isn't this interesting? Same kind of war. When we became the same kind of imperial force as the Brits, same thing happened to us. So this point of power, our karma, is what happens to us. Force of the past maturing. Our purushartha, it's called in Sanskrit. Our own self-effort is, what am I going to do about it? And how am I going to respond as a yogi? With some creativity, with some freedom, knowing this law of karma. To break the karmic chains that have caused me to suffer and caused other people to suffer. Any thoughts on this?
So is if there is no like duality to God, and there's like what's his relationship? What's God's relationship to the material world? Is he like inseparable from it, or
The material world is in God. The Chandogya Upanishad thunders Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. All this, Sarvamidam, Kalu, verily is God. Again, go back to the dream state. You are the God of your dream. If you have a nightmare, isn't it still you? Yeah. If you have a really pleasant, sexy dream, isn't it you? Yeah. Which is more real?
the waking state?
From the viewpoint of the dream state, at the waking state, both dreams are just imagination. Neither touches. We can't say the pleasant dream, oh, that's from me, but nightmare, oh, the devil did that. It's all in my own mind. This is no different. So in this verse, what Krishna is saying, and he's laid things out largely for the poetry in the order, but all beings, positive and negative, virtuous and vicious, are in God. We need to know that what happens in God's material world, creation, sustaining destruction. 99% of all species that have ever existed on Earth are extinct. What's going to happen to the sun eventually?
Explode.
What happens to galaxies?
Press into themselves.
Black hole. What happens to every person you know eventually? I love what Deepak Chopra says. The opposite of death is not life. The opposite of death is birth. There is no opposite to life. Krishna is life itself. Consciousness is life itself. You are a conscious, sentient being. Your body has been born and has died how many times? Every experience you've had is born and died. But you are Nitya, eternal. Don't believe me. Go find out. All right, one more and then we'll quit.
Mahashayah sapla purve chatvaro manavastha madbhava manasa jata yesham loka ima praja. The seven great rishis, the ancient four, and also the Manus, possess the powers like me, were born of my mind. From them are these creatures in the world originated and sustained.
So the ancient rishis, these born of the creator, that's in our mystic literature and the Puranas and things like that. We don't need to go into the mythology. The Manus, these are again beings that occur in the mythology. We don't again need to go into who they are historically and the myths around them, the stories around them. Point is, from these great rishis come forth the sacred literature. The term we use in Sanskrit to describe the sacred literature is Shruti. Who can tell me what Shruti actually means? We get words like Shravana from the same root.
Wisdom?
Heard. Channel. What he's saying is all the great sacred wisdom, not just within the Hindu culture, ultimately comes from God. Now, we have physical evolution. Bodies and brains through millennia evolve. But there's also spiritual evolution that happens. force inside us. Just like on a physical plane, human beings are sexual. Origin of that is make babies. But deep within us also is what I call the divine discontent. This yearning. St. Augustine said, "Thou hast made us for thyself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it rests in thee." Got a God-shaped hole in our hearts. Nothing else will fill it up. So here what Krishna is saying is all the sources of wisdom, the ancient rishis, Manus, all these famous teachers through history, where did they get it? It's funny how they emerge at these very interesting times in history. All over the world, sometimes there'll just be a blossoming, like Buddha and Lao Tzu and Confucius, Socrates, all within a couple hundred years of each other, right around 500 BCE. It's very interesting. There's this kind of spiritual evolution that happened. It's always going on. And its origin is in consciousness. It's always happening in each one of us individually. All right, it's 8 o'clock. We'll end here. What verse did we complete? Was that 5? It was 6 that we completed. Let's stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you, Marcus, for hosting. Thank
got
you,
it. Thank you.
for chanting.
Thank you.